You don't actually lack confidence. You lack a safe place inside yourself to stand when you're being seen. And I want you to notice what happens in your body as you hear that. Maybe your shoulders soften a little. Maybe your chest tightens because something in you recognizes the truth of it, and truth can feel tender at first, especially if you've been carrying the story that you're not confident like it's a permanent label. You've been trying to build confidence the way people build a resume, collecting proof, stacking achievements, hoping it finally feels solid. And it makes sense that you've done it this way, because you were taught, directly or indirectly, that confidence comes from evidence, from results, from being chosen, from being approved, from being right. So you worked harder. You became more capable, more helpful, more polished. You learned to anticipate what people wanted so you could deliver it before they even asked. You learned how to smile while your stomach was in knots. You learned how to sound certain while you were quietly questioning yourself. And if no one has said this to you in a while, that is exhausting. It's exhausting to live as your own court of law, putting yourself on trial every day. Exhausting to feel like your worth is something you have to defend. Exhausting to wake up and immediately measure whether you're doing enough to deserve your place in the room. This hasn't been an easy journey for you, and I see that. So many people are walking through this exact inner struggle right now, looking successful on the outside, while privately feeling like one wrong step will take it all away. And yet, here you are, still searching, still open, still willing to grow. That takes a quiet kind of courage that's already pointing to the confidence you think you don't have. Because unshakable confidence isn't loud. It's not a performance. It's not a posture you hold until your arms start trembling. Unshakable confidence is a relationship with yourself. And the truth is, you've been in a relationship with yourself for a long time that's been built on conditions. I'll accept you when you do it perfectly. I'll trust you when you stop feeling afraid. I'll love you when you finally become the version of you that never messes up. What if I told you that the very moments you lose confidence are the moments you most need your own loyalty? Have you noticed how confidence doesn't usually disappear in calm, ordinary moments? It disappears when there's a risk, when you're being evaluated, when you're being watched, when you're about to ask for something you want, when you're stepping into a bigger version of your life. And it can feel so personal, like something is wrong with you, like you're behind, like you missed some essential lesson everyone else got. You didn't miss it. You were simply trained to build confidence from the outside in, and you're ready now to build it from the inside out, which is a completely different kind of foundation. So let's make this very real, very practical, and very kind. Because confidence from within isn't built by forcing yourself to feel brave. It's built by learning how to stay present with yourself when you don't. Just let that settle for a moment. There's a reason your confidence collapses at certain edges, and it's not because you're weak. It's because your nervous system is doing exactly what it was designed to do: protect you from danger. And for many of us, being seen, being judged, being misunderstood, being criticized, registered as danger at some point in our story. Maybe you were corrected harshly. Maybe you were compared. Maybe you were praised only when you performed. Maybe you learned that making a mistake cost you love, attention, or safety. Maybe you grew up around unpredictability, and you became the one who tried to keep everything together. So now when you walk into a meeting or a conversation or a new relationship or a creative risk, your body doesn't ask, "Are we capable?" It asks, "Are we safe?" And when the answer feels uncertain, the body pulls confidence off the table and replaces it with something it thinks will protect you, like overthinking, people-pleasing, perfectionism, freezing, apologizing, shrinking, controlling the narrative, controlling the outcome. If you've been living with that constant internal pressure to get it right, it's because your system learned that right equals safe. And yes, I said safe, not successful, safe. What if the moment your confidence disappears isn't failure, but information your body is trying to give you? Here's what I've come to understand. When your confidence is dependent on external validation, it will always be fragile, because the outside world is not stable enough to hold your sense of self. Praise changes, opinions shift, people project, circumstances wobble. And if your confidence is tied to any of that, you will feel like you're constantly rebuilding it from scratch. That's why you can have a great week, productive, praised, on top of things, and then one comment, one rejection, one misunderstanding can make you feel like you're back at the beginning. It's not that you forgot who you are. It's that you were never taught to keep who you are when someone else is disappointed. And this is important to hear. Your confidence is not meant to be negotiated. It's meant to be rooted. So let's root it. I want you to imagine, just for a moment, that there's an inner ground beneath you, like a steady earth inside your chest. Not a place that's always cheerful, not a place that's always certain, a place that's simply present, steady, and honest. Unshakable confidence is the ability to return to that inner ground again and again, even when you feel exposed, especially when you feel exposed. Somewhere along the way, you learned that being lovable meant being impressive, and that's a heavy way to live. If that lands in you, if your eyes soften or your throat tightens, just breathe with it. You don't have to analyze it right now. Just notice and let yourself be here with yourself as you hear it. Because the version of you that learned to be impressive was trying to survive, trying to secure love, trying to avoid shame, trying to create safety through excellence. And it may have worked in certain ways. It may have opened doors. It may have earned approval. And yet, you're tired. And you're ready for something truer. You're ready for the kind of confidence that doesn't require constant proving. The kind of confidence that doesn't crumble the moment someone else disapproves. The kind of confidence that says, I can be misunderstood and still be okay. Do you know how rare that is? Do you know how free that feels? Let's talk about the kind of confidence that doesn't spike when you're praised and crash when you're questioned. There's a subtle difference between confidence and certainty. Many people chase certainty because certainty feels safe, but certainty is often rigid. It needs control. It needs guarantees. Confidence from within is softer than certainty and stronger. It doesn't say, I know exactly what will happen. It says, whatever happens, I can stay with myself. And that is the pivot point. Because when you can stay with yourself, you stop abandoning yourself at the first sign of discomfort. You stop turning against yourself when you're nervous. You stop rehearsing your flaws like a prayer. You begin to treat yourself like someone you love. Now, I want to give you something specific and usable, not as a rule, not as a demand, as a doorway you can step through gently when you're ready. There are 3 inner pillars of unshakable confidence, and they're not what most people think. The first pillar is inner safety. The second is self-trust. The third is self-allegiance. And yes, you can build all 3. Let's begin with inner safety, because everything rests on it. Inner safety is not the absence of fear. It's the presence of gentleness with yourself inside fear. So the next time you're about to do something that matters, speak up, present, ask, set a boundary, show your work, tell the truth, notice what your body does, notice the subtle tightening, the quick meaning, the urge to over-explain. And instead of telling yourself, stop it, try this, place one hand somewhere that feels comforting, your chest, your belly, your shoulder, and say quietly inside, I'm here, just that, I'm here. And if you can, add one more line, we're safe enough to try. Not, we're safe. Not forcing certainty, safe enough to try. This is a different kind of confidence. This is confidence as companionship. Because a nervous system doesn't calm down because you shame it into calm. It calms down because it senses support. It calms down because it feels you staying. Your heart already knows this. The moments you needed confidence most are the moments you needed reassurance most. And no one taught you that you could give it to yourself. So we're teaching your system something new. This practice may seem small, but small is how real change happens, like roots forming quietly underground long before you see any growth above the soil. Now, the second pillar is self-trust. Self-trust isn't the belief that you'll always succeed. It's the belief that you'll respond to yourself with respect no matter what. Do you see how different that is? Most people try to trust themselves by predicting a flawless outcome. I trust myself because I'll do it perfectly. And then the moment they make a mistake, trust disappears. That isn't trust. That's a bargain. Self-trust says, even if I stumble, I won't betray myself. So let's build it in a way that your nervous system can actually believe. Self-trust is built through evidence too, but not the kind you've been collecting. Not external proof. Internal proof. Proof that you show up for yourself in small moments. Proof that you keep promises to your own heart. Proof that your inner voice matters. Here's one of the most powerful ways to build self-trust. Stop making promises to yourself that you secretly resent. Because every time you force yourself into a plan that doesn't honor your actual capacity, you teach yourself, my needs don't matter. And then later you wonder why you don't feel confident. Confidence collapses when you don't believe you will protect yourself. So begin here. Make smaller promises. Make truer promises. If you tell yourself you'll rest for 10 minutes, rest for 10 minutes. If you tell yourself you'll speak one honest sentence, speak one honest sentence. If you tell yourself you'll stop arguing with yourself in the mirror, stop, even for one breath. And when you keep that small promise, let yourself feel it. Let your system register it. You might even say, thank you, we did that. Because the part of you that has been trying so hard needs acknowledgement, not criticism. Now the third pillar is self-allegiance, and this is where confidence becomes unshakable. Self-allegiance means I am on my own side, not in an arrogant way, in a devoted way. It means you stop treating your worth like it's up for debate. It means you stop leaving yourself whenever someone else is upset. It means you stop trading your truth for belonging. And if that feels tender, I want to be very gentle here, because many of us were taught that being on our own side is selfish. We were taught that loyalty means self-sacrifice, that love means shrinking. So of course, self-allegiance feels unfamiliar. But this is important to hear. Self-allegiance is not selfishness, it's integrity. It's saying, I will not abandon myself to keep the peace. And yes, that may change some things, but it will also change everything. There's a quiet practice that changes everything, learning to stay with yourself in the exact moments you used to abandon yourself. Let's talk about those moments. They are so specific, aren't they? When you send a message and don't get a reply right away and your mind starts building stories. When someone's tone shifts and your stomach drops. When you make one mistake and suddenly you're reviewing your entire life for evidence that you're failing. When you're about to be seen and you start shaping yourself into what you think will be acceptable. These are the places confidence leaks out of you, not because you're incapable, but because you learn to survive by disappearing. So here is a practice you can use right inside those moments. It's simple, but it's not shallow. It's called the return. When you notice that you're leaving yourself, spiraling, people-pleasing, over-explaining, shrinking, pause and ask one question. What am I afraid will happen if I stay as me? Let that be a real question, not a performance question. A tender question. I'm afraid they'll judge me. I'm afraid they'll leave. I'm afraid I'll be wrong. I'm afraid I'll be too much. I'm afraid I won't be enough. I'm afraid I'll disappoint them. I'm afraid I'll fail, and everyone will know. And when you find the fear, don't argue with it. Validate it. Say, of course you're afraid. You learned that being yourself wasn't always safe. And then return. Return to your body. Return to your breath. Return to one true sentence. Here's a sentence you can borrow if you need it. I can be here with this. Not I can fix this. Not I can control this. I can be here with this. This is how you build inner safety. This is how you build self-trust. This is how you build self-allegiance. And your confidence begins to stabilize, not because you become invincible, but because you become present. Your heart already knows this. Confidence is not the absence of vulnerability. Confidence is the refusal to abandon yourself inside vulnerability. Now, I want to open a loop for a moment, because there's a piece here that most people don't talk about, and it changes how you interpret your confidence dips. The moments your confidence collapses are often the moments you are closest to expansion. Closest. Because the old identity, the version of you that survived by being small, doesn't like expansion. It doesn't like visibility. It doesn't like change. Not because it's evil, but because it's protective. So when you step toward a bigger life, the old self says, danger, and it pulls old strategies out of storage. Overthinking, perfectionism, procrastination, numbing, apologizing, delaying, doubting. If you've been experiencing that lately, it's because you're growing, and growth is disorienting. So instead of interpreting a confidence dip as proof you're not ready, you can begin to interpret it as proof that something is shifting. You're not imagining this. Now let's talk about the one habit that quietly destroys inner confidence more than anything else. The way you speak to yourself when you're scared. Because your inner voice is either a sanctuary or a battlefield. And if you've been harsh with yourself, I want to say this with so much compassion. You didn't choose that voice out of cruelty. You learned it. Sometimes we internalize the voices that raised us. Sometimes we adopt harshness because we think it will make us better. Sometimes we think self-criticism is accountability. But your nervous system hears your inner criticism as threat. It doesn't get motivated, it gets defensive. So when you're about to do something brave, and the inner voice says, "Don't mess this up," your body tightens, your mind scrambles, and your confidence collapses. This is the moment to practice a new voice. Not fake positivity. Truth with kindness. Try this. This matters to me, and I'm allowed to be nervous. Or, I don't need to be perfect to be worthy. Or, I can be learning and still be powerful. And if you can't believe those yet, that's okay. Borrow them like you'd borrow a warm coat on a cold day. You don't have to own the coat to let it help you. Now let's close that loop I opened, because this is the part that changes everything. When your confidence collapses at the edge of growth, it's often because your system is asking, is it safe to be seen as me? So the real practice isn't be more confident. The real practice is be more loyal. Loyal to your inner truth, loyal to your needs, loyal to your pace, loyal to your no, loyal to your yes. Because your confidence rises naturally when you trust that you won't betray yourself to earn acceptance. Do you feel that? You don't have to convince yourself you're amazing. You have to convince yourself you're safe with you, and that is doable. Let's make this even more tangible with a simple framework you can use in any moment that shakes you. It's called STAND. Not as a formula, but as a gentle sequence your mind can hold when everything feels wobbly. S. Slow down. T. Touch the body. A. Acknowledge the fear. N. Name one truth. D. Decide one aligned step. Now, I'm not asking you to do it perfectly. I'm offering you a handrail. Slow down, even by 3%. Touch the body, hand on chest, feet on the floor, breath in the ribs. Acknowledge the fear. Of course this feels scary. Name one truth. I am allowed to be here. I belong. I can learn. Decide one aligned step, one email, one sentence, one boundary, one pause, one honest breath. Confidence becomes unshakable through repetition of safety, not repetition of hype. And if you've been waiting for a magical day where you wake up fearless, I want to lovingly release you from that expectation. Fear is not the enemy. Self-abandonment is. So let's talk about the ways you abandon yourself gently, without shame. You abandon yourself when you say yes while your whole body says no. You abandon yourself when you apologize for having needs. You abandon yourself when you shrink your joy to avoid making others uncomfortable. You abandon yourself when you over-explain your truth to people who are committed to misunderstanding you. You abandon yourself when you make your worth dependent on someone else's mood. And you might feel a little ache hearing that, because you've done some of those things just to survive, just to keep connection, just to stay safe. So we honor the reason, and we choose something new. Because when you stop negotiating your worth, you start making choices that actually match your truth. This is where confidence becomes visible on the outside, not because you're trying to look confident, but because your inner world is no longer at war with itself. And yes, some people may react to that. Some people benefited from your self-doubt. Some people were comfortable when you were always available, always accommodating, always agreeable. So when you become steadier, they may call it different. They may call it cold. They may call it selfish. But your heart already knows this. Being steadier is not being cold. It's being clear. And you can be clear with love. You can be clear with softness. You can be clear without abandoning yourself. Now, I want to offer you one brief story, because it may help you feel how this works in real life. I once knew someone who was incredibly capable. On paper, she was the person everyone trusted. But whenever she had to speak in a room of leaders, her confidence vanished. She would over-prepare, over-explain, and then leave the meeting replaying every word like she'd committed a crime. One day, after a meeting, she stopped in her car and placed her hand on her chest and said out loud, "I'm not doing this to myself anymore." Not, "I'm never going to be nervous again." Just, "I'm not abandoning myself anymore." And something shifted. Her anxiety didn't evaporate overnight, but her inner relationship changed. She became someone she could trust, and her confidence followed. You're being given that same invitation. You might notice something in your own life soon, a moment where you would normally shrink, and instead you pause and stay. A moment where you would normally rush to prove yourself, and instead you breathe and speak one true sentence. A moment where you would normally twist yourself into someone else's comfort, and instead you remember your own. That is confidence being built, quietly, reliably. Now let's bring this down into the most common everyday confidence triggers: comparison and rejection. Comparison isn't just jealousy, it's pain. It's the moment you look at someone else and forget your own timeline. Comparison says, "They're ahead, so I must be behind." But your heart already knows life is not a single file line. It's a landscape. Different seasons, different soil, different timing. And when you compare your beginning to someone else's middle, you will always feel small. So the next time comparison rises, try this simple reframe. Their success is evidence of what's possible, not proof of my insufficiency. And then return to your own ground. Return to your breath. Return to your own next step. Because confidence isn't built by watching other people's lives. It's built by living yours. Now rejection, real or imagined, can be the sharpest trigger. A no, a silence, a change in tone, a door that doesn't open. And the old part of you may interpret it as, "I'm not wanted." But here's what I've come to understand. Rejection often means misalignment, not unworthiness. Sometimes the no is protection. Sometimes the no is redirection. Sometimes the no is someone else's limitation. And sometimes the no is simply life saying, "Not this way." So when rejection hits, instead of asking, "What's wrong with me?" try asking, "What is this making room for?" And if you can't access that yet, be simpler. Say, "This hurts, and I am still worthy." Let that settle for a moment. Now, there's another piece of unshakable confidence that people rarely name: the willingness to be imperfect in public, because perfection is not confidence. Perfection is fear in a beautiful outfit. Confidence from within says, "I am allowed to be learning," and that is a radical permission. So I want to offer you a very gentle daily practice, something you can do in under 2 minutes that gradually rewires your relationship with yourself. At the end of your day, ask yourself, where did I stay with myself today? Not where you performed well, not where you were productive. Where did you stay? Maybe you rested when you wanted to push. Maybe you told the truth kindly. Maybe you paused before people-pleasing. Maybe you didn't send the second apologizing message. Maybe you breathed through a wave of doubt and still took one step. Find one moment and let yourself receive it. Because your nervous system learns from what you acknowledge. This is not about becoming confident as a personality. This is about becoming safe as a home. And the moment you become a home for yourself, you stop begging the world to house you. You stop needing everyone to agree with you for you to stand. You stop outsourcing your worth. You begin to belong to yourself. Your heart already knows this. You are not here to earn your right to exist. You are here to live. Now you might notice that some relationships feel different as you become steadier, and that doesn't mean you're doing it wrong. It means you're changing the agreement. If your relationship was built on you always adapting, always smoothing, always proving, and you start standing in your truth, the dynamic shifts. And that can feel scary because part of you may worry, if I stop performing, will I still be loved? I want you to breathe as you hear this. The love that requires you to abandon yourself is not love that nourishes you. It may be attachment, it may be familiarity, it may be history, but nourishing love meets you. It doesn't demand your ear ants. So if certain connections feel strained as you become more yourself, don't rush to judge it. Just notice. Just listen. Your heart already knows what is aligned. And remember, you can hold boundaries with kindness. You can choose yourself without cruelty. You can say no without shutting your heart. Now let's bring everything together into a simple inner touchstone you can return to any time. Unshakable confidence is not, I'm always sure. It's, I am always with me. Say that inside and notice what it does. I am always with me. This is self-allegiance. This is the ending of inner abandonment. This is the beginning of a life where your worth is not up for negotiation. And if you want an affirmation to carry, not as a magic spell, but as a steady reminder, here it is. I approve of myself. Not someday, not after you fix everything. Now I approve of myself. You might feel resistance. That's okay. Resistance is just an old protector saying, we don't do that. So be gentle with it. You can start smaller. I am willing to approve of myself. I am learning to approve of myself. I am open to seeing myself with kinder eyes. And as you repeat it, you're not trying to convince your mind. You're teaching your body a new truth. This is where it all lands, inside the ordinary moments, where your new confidence becomes your natural way of being. It lands when you take a breath before you respond. It lands when you don't rush to be understood. It lands when you let silence exist without filling it with self-explanation. It lands when you make a mistake and you don't punish yourself for being human. It lands when you choose rest without needing to justify it. It lands when you say, "That doesn't work for me," and you don't add 10 reasons to make it acceptable. It lands when you feel fear and you still stay. And I want to bless something in you right now. The part of you that has been trying so hard. The part that thought confidence had to be earned. The part that believed love was conditional. The part that carried the weight of being impressive. You can set that down, not because you're giving up, because you're coming home. And in the coming days, you may notice small shifts that don't look dramatic but feel profound. A softer inner voice, a steadier breath, a clearer no, a clearer yes, a moment of being seen where you don't disappear. And when those moments come, honor them. Say, "This is me building my foundation," because that's exactly what it is. Confidence from within doesn't arrive like fireworks. It arrives like sunrise, quietly, faithfully, and then one day you realize you're living in a different light. You're not imagining this. You're not behind. You're not broken. You are waking up to the truth that you were never meant to earn your worth through perfection. You were meant to remember it through presence. So the next time your confidence wobbles, don't panic. Don't make it mean you're not ready. Don't turn it into a verdict. Make it an invitation to return, hand on your heart, feet on the ground, one breath that belongs to you, and one true sentence. I'm here. We're safe enough to try. I am always with me. Let that settle for a moment. Because when you become a safe place for yourself, you don't need the world to constantly reassure you. You still enjoy encouragement, of course. We all do. But you're no longer dependent on it. You're anchored. You're rooted. You're steady in your own presence. And from that place, you take the step. You speak the truth. You set the boundary. You offer the work. You receive the compliment without needing it to define you. You receive the criticism without letting it destroy you. You remain yours. And that is unshakable confidence from within, and it has been waiting for you in the quietest place all along.